We have been doing, thanks to Cultural Affairs and Dorothy, a series on birds, where every week trying to take this great topic and split it into a number of segments so that we comprehensively cover all of it. And we have gone through all of the bird groups. So we had a night on raptors and a night on waterfowl and a night on warblers. And so now we're summing up, just kind of like drawing all of this together. And tonight's topic is birds of autumn and winter. Next week will be birds of spring and summer. And then our final one before a bird town hall, where we'd love to hear your stories, is on the environmental issues facing birds. And so as we progress, shout out to all of the wonderful places where we go, where we've been in the past couple weeks. Welcome, come on in. And so special shout out to the Orange County Audubon Society, which manages five preserves. We go on at least monthly walks to one of those. We were at one, what's today's date? About 10 days ago. The Bashkill Area Association is wonderful. And then all of the other ones. We've been, 2 days ago, we were at the Wallkill River National Wildlife Refuge. They have a friends group. A few weeks before that, we were at the Shawangunk Grasslands. They have a friends group. As you go through this, if you hear stories and, just about our birding adventures, and you say, oh, that sounds like fun. I wish there were people that did that. There are. So all of these groups, they have web pages which will post upcoming events. So here's the Audubon Society field trips, etc. I know some of them, like the Mearns Bird Group, Audubon certainly is trying to organize their Christmas bird counts. That's kind of like a big deal where volunteers go out and just like take a day and they count all the birds that they can see, and it goes into national databases. So if you're looking to get more involved, if you feel these are people like you, they would love to have you. There's so many groups. I can mention this again and again at the end. We even have two calendars and membership forms for Audubon and BKA. If anyone's interested, I can mention that at the end. So the topic today is birding in autumn and winter. And I'd like to just kind of set the stage with, if you're not into birds, maybe something that you know a little bit better. Or maybe that's the next video. All right, so we'll get back to you. Here's a deer, right? But if you look at the deer, you might notice, all right, wow, okay, so like there's the antlers and they're bare bone. And if you know anything about the life cycle of a deer, they don't always look like that. All right, so that, it's midsummer where the antlers start to grow, and then by autumn, then they have covered in velvet, and then they scrape it off because rutting season, where they're mating, is here in autumn and early winter, so that they can give birth in the spring. And so if you want to see a deer look like that, this is the time of year. All right. So this is a special time. You might say, oh, it's cold. Like I'll look for wildlife in, spring or summer. But autumn gives you a different look at this. And I'm just going to do a couple of mammals before we focus on birds. Bears are always eating, but this time of year, they have to eat 5 times more. All right, so they go from like 4,000 calories a day to 20,000 calories a day. So they're acting different in fall and winter. You're probably going to see them. Actually, I regret to say this. There was a bear I passed on 84 this morning that had been hit. They're out and about more because they just have to eat ravenously at time of year. So this is a different time for mammals. The fawns are different. They're finally losing their spots. And so I just start off with mammals saying that every time of the year you get a different glimpse at the mammals in our area. And I would like to give a special shout out to Nancy. Thank you so very much. We were birding 2 days ago. So we have regular bird hikes for Audubon, and we were having a great day. It was a beautiful day, but it was cold, and we weren't seeing a lot. And so I was like scanning the horizon. We were looking for a bunch of things which we hadn't seen, and we knew that where we were seeing sandhill cranes was a possibility. So Nancy was the first to spot them. So thank you very much. Welcome, come on in. And so not only did we see sandhill cranes, which is always exciting. I've only seen them, I think, like 4 times. And a lot of members of our group had never seen them. A couple had seen them only once. We saw 9, which I'm excited to see one. So seeing 9. Now nine's weird. All right. they didn't spend the summer here. So they're migrating. So here's just this great view. If you don't know sandhill cranes, they stand up to 5 feet tall. Their wingspans are up to 8 feet. These are huge birds, and to see 9 of them, like right just hanging out in front of you, it was a wonderful day. So this is an autumn thing. All right. So they were migrating. I know that there would be the temptation, like, oh, I'm going to go bird watching when it's warm, and it starts getting cold, so many things migrate, there's less to see. And that's not wrong from some point. Welcome, come on in. But from another sense, what you see in autumn and what you see in winter will be different from what you see in other times of the year. There's plenty of chairs over here. So either sit here or drag them. So there are certain bird species that winter is the time to go out. And if you don't see them in winter, you're not going to see them that year. So this is just going to try to give you an overview of this and focus. I'd like to focus on, I guess, two big themes. One is the birds as they transition in autumn and winter, the fact that we see different ones than we see in summer particularly. And then talk a little bit about teenage birds a little as one of the songs. So I love this bird. This is the common merganser. I kayak on the Delaware a lot, and you see them all the time. Very common. So the males look like this. The females look like this. The females raise the young on their own, as is typical in ducks. So then the females often being followed by a lot of things that look like this. And about 3 weeks ago, there was one here in Goshen, which is odd. But Goshen, the sanctuary, the Audubon sanctuary there, never has those in summer. In fact, if you look at eBird, there's no record of these in summer. They're in the Delaware, which is only 15 minutes away, 20, but never here. So this is autumn, and things are different. This is a Canada bird, which is migrating to more southern places. So even though common mergansers are in Orange County, and you can see them all summer, you can't see them in Goshen, but in autumn you can. So just a sign that there's migration changes what birds you can see. And then a follow-up, and these will just be two themes that I work into the rest of this. Spring birding can be a little bit difficult because you got to learn all these birds, and males sometimes look different from females. Autumn and winter birding can be even a little harder still because not only are the males maybe not as brightly colored, some are, like the wood ducks are just looking like that now. But now you've also got the ones that hatched this year. So if you're trying to learn your birds, you've got teenagers, all right? And I'm sure as a lot of you have experienced, maybe some of you are experiencing now, teenagers are different from adults. They look different. They act different, all right? Maybe the differences are subtle, but maybe sometimes more prominent. And so like if you were to see a cormorant as, let me just go back. Okay, yeah, we'll go for it. So in the past week, there have been two cormorants in Goshen. One is an adult that looks like this. One is a juvenile that looks a little bit different. And so if you're getting into birding, just this time of year is different. It's actually a little more complex to go birding because of those things. Now, okay, yeah, so here's just one more teenager. You think starling. That's what I think of. All right, you see the spots, etc. But then you look at this. This is an autumn thing. And you look at West, what this is. I thought it was a flicker, and Merlin thought it was a flicker. And my friend who's a bird, first thing you think is a flicker. And then you look like, no, that's a starling. That's a teenager. Once again, that's not what I think a starling looks like. But then I forget. Teenagers, they're looking different from the adults. So autumn, just there's surprises. Birds you think you know, you realize I don't think of starlings with these gray heads, but that's an autumn starling that hatched this year. A question that always comes up is about migration. As this is the last introductory comment before we start hitting individual species of birds. Do birds migrate? Well, these guys, yes, that's a common yellowthroat. They eat bugs, and it gets cold. There are no bugs around. They all have gone south of us, all of them, right? So they all migrate. Do great blue herons migrate? Well, now here we get into a more complex thing where they can. All right. So can you see great blue herons throughout the winter? Like when will you see I'm sorry, I'm going to start that sentence all over. When will you see your last great blue heron for the year? You might see them all winter, especially if it's mild. Why? Don't they migrate? Well, here it's complicated because partial migration usually means something like this. Canada great blue herons, they definitely will migrate. It gets too cold, they can't stand it. So Canada ones will. Definitely, you can bet on it. The Georgia ones probably won't. All right, it's warm. They can still find fish in Georgia all year round. So you can't say the species migrates or it doesn't because the northern populations do, the southern populations probably won't. How about in the middle where we are? Well, now they've got options. They could stay. So here could be a summer great blue heron, which stays all winter, all right, especially if it's mild. Even when this freezes over, like 6.5, that's the Goshen station. I'm the sanctuary steward there. When it freezes over, you don't see great blue herons anymore. But let's say you have a warm spell, and last couple of winters have been weird and warm, and all of a sudden that melts a little bit. The great blue heron's back, and you're thinking it did not come back from Georgia. Like it did not fly south, abandoning our area and come back. So it was probably on the stream that's right on the side of the Heritage Trail. So it had open water. It had abandoned the frozen wetland, but the minute it melted, it just flies 100 yards and back. So they could stay all winter. Or one last thing is all of the great blue herons migrate, but ours migrate to Virginia and Quebec's migrate here. So you could say, I see great blue herons all winter long. They must stay here. Maybe not. Maybe they migrate. It's just if everyone's moving south, Canada's birds could move here and this be their Florida. If you see bald eagles, as we saw 5 bald eagles on our last trip to the Bashakil, it's like I think 2 weeks ago. Um, what are they doing? Well, the same thing. That could be our summer bald eagle staying all winter. That could be Canada's bald eagles because ours are in Virginia right now. So with a lot of this, it's confusing, especially as years get warmer and warmer. So as I go through, our list, I'm not quite sure what the birds are doing, and maybe they aren't either. All right. Then there's these. Oh, all right. For those who know, we're all waiting for this. We're all hoping, what, like another month that we start to see short-eared owls in our area. And why am I saying that? Because they are winter birds. The only time of the year you will see these in Orange County is in winter. So come winter, we're going on bird walks. There's a lot of birds we're not going to see. But there's some that we're hoping to see because this is our only option. The short-eared owls, the rough-legged hawks. So let me, kind of take my time, but I just wanted to sow the seeds as we look for those in autumn and then winter. We got a lot going on. All right. So as we go slowly. All right. So green-winged teals, love the birds. They don't nest here in summer. All right. So I never see them in summer. And by that I mean July. Come late summer, August and September, I maybe see them, and yeah, they're just not at their most colorful best. All right. So here, I'm looking to see who's impressed for people at home. I'm looking at the audience. No one seems to be impressed. They're not very colorful in late summer, often more of a brown color. But then they start to develop these cinnamon heads and these green, and they'll get brighter. So when does spring hit? Well, for ducks, it's actually right around now. All right. This is where the males start to show off for the females that they hope to attract. And so, like in this last one here, you can see starting to look a little scruffy, like a little orange is coming in. So by late summer, they all green-winged teals look like this. And if you wanted to pick them out from a mallard, you just have to say, oh, they're a little bit smaller and they've got a green spot on their wings. But then come autumn, you start to see some color coming in on the males. And then by this point, you see a lot. And they will stay here as long as they can. This video, I think, yeah, I think this is the recent one and not last year's. But I think my count 2 weeks ago was 124, which the wetland in Goshen, it's not that big. So 124, and that's just this species of duck. That's a fair amount. And so they love it here. All right. This is a nice little marsh the way they like. And this is giving them the nourishment that they're going to need to go to Virginia or Georgia or wherever they're going to rest up. And now you're starting to see some of the more auburn heads. So when I go to 6.5 station, I'm not seeing all the birds that I used to. All right, in summer, yeah, what's going on there? I don't know. Look weird. So I'm not seeing all the summer birds that I used to, but seeing green-winged teals at all, seeing them more in their colorful best, and seeing 100 of them, that's an autumn thing. All right. So autumn, it is changing a little bit, but there are opportunities that you'll have uh, here. If you were in July looking for a wood duck that looks like that, you wouldn't see any because the males, they don't look like that. They only look like that when they're trying to attract the females. All right. This is a female with the big white spot on her eye. And, they lay their eggs in spring. So the males are thinking, I'm not going to try to show off if it's not breeding season. The only thing that I would do is make it easier for predators to find me. But right around, they say, no, let's start looking for partners now. So for the ducks, it's almost spring. Like the ducks are thinking of mating and the next breeding season now. So the mallards, which lost their green heads in July, they've got them back. The wood ducks look like that again. So everyone's on a um, slightly different cycle. Last year, we saw this visitor, which was wonderful. This is a snow goose. All right. Winter is the only time that we'll get to see these. All right. So once again, I go out in winter. There's a lot of birds I'm not going to see, but snow geese, they are among them. We'll get to snow geese there. So waterfowl um, in. I'm sorry. There's a chat. Let me just check. Where are this? Oh, so the question is, where are the sandhill cranes? So the only place in Orange County that I know of, I think they might wander a little bit, but you always go to the Liberty Loop Trail in the Wallkill River National Wildlife Refuge. That's near, I always get Uniontown and Westtown next up. I think Unionville. Yeah, that's the southern one. I always forget which one's more so. And you go to the back pond, that's where we saw them. So you do the square loop trail, but then there's a back pond. The back pond was where we saw them. So this is a great time for birds. But as I said, spring, a lot of the birds are a little brighter coloration. So here are um, northern shovelers. It's hard to recognize them unless you say, wow, that's a big bill. In spring, they haven't gotten at this time of year their spring coloration yet. So for many birds, uh, spring, they are a little bit brighter here. I saw my first pintail last week. I love those ducks. So they're here. Although the thing that you really like about pintails are their long tails. So males coming into their fancy coloration, that is a gradual process. We're seeing some birds do it, not others. And for example, with the pintails, their tail feathers that give them their name are still kind of in process. We've been seeing black ducks everywhere. So this is a neat time. Okay. So as we go to different habitats, the waterfowl are certainly, exciting here. Uh, then there are ones which won't change. All right. So, autumn and winter don't have to change much because woodpeckers can still find bugs. They found bugs by making holes in trees in spring and summer, and they can keep doing that in autumn and winter. So there are holdovers that can still feed in our area all year round. There are a lot of bugs which eat birds. Um, I'm sorry, my fault. There are a lot of birds that eat bugs, and there are sorry, probably the reverse true if you think of parasites. If you know where to find them, there are still bugs in winter. Woodpeckers obviously do. The same thing with eagles. If you eat fish, there are fish in Orange County even when things freeze, because even when things freeze, there are places where it's still going um, to stay open enough. So when it gets the coldest in Orange County and you say like, oh, I miss nature. I'd love to see wildlife. I'd love to see eagles. All right. Well, there's two places to go, or maybe three. So the Hudson River is a great place to go because it won't freeze solid. And you'll see eagles on the ice floes looking for fish. On the Delaware River, the Lackawaxen Bridge, the Roebling Bridge as the Lackawaxen comes in. That's ice free, a great place to see eagles. And nearby, the Rio Dam. So if all the water freezes, that means all of the eagles which have stayed are now concentrated in three places. And now you don't have to say, like, I'm going to drive a while, hope I see an eagle. You can just sit in your car and say, oh, there's one. Okay, wait a while. Oh, yeah, there's two over there. Because they're all at the same um, areas which are ice-free. So you might see more eagles, and more concentrated eagles in winter, even on the coldest days, than you would otherwise for that in other times of the year. I'll mention that one again. That's a fox sparrow. You only see them in migration. They don't live here. Bluebirds can stay here all winter, all right? And so, maybe they migrate, but maybe they stay, especially in um, warmer times. So, uh, that title of the previous video was different habitats. So the same advice that you would use at the regular time of year apply here too. Uh, there are certain ducks you're going to see near water, or certain birds you're going to see near water. Certain ones you're going to see in a deep forest with big, trees like the pileated woodpecker. They like mature forest. If you're in evergreens, there are birds that like evergreens rather than deciduous. So same strategy that you might have in other times of year, maybe do different bird walks and different habitats. The sandhill cranes, I've only seen them one place ever, so that would be southern Orange County into to Sussex. So if you want to see them, that's where you go. And for a bunch of other species, it would be the same. Okay. I'd like to just give a shout out to the mute swans because last year we started with 6 and ended with 1. This year we started with 8 and ended with 3. So that's something that you can kind of watch over spring and summer. And next week I'll talk more about nesting and raising the young because that'll be more of a spring and summer theme. But over the course of the summer, we've seen these cygnets grow up. Now, when they're small, lots of things eat them. Snapping turtles do, hawks and eagles do, even like ravens and jays will go after eggs and nestlings and things like that. But then over the course of the summer, we've been seeing them get bigger and bigger. And if you remember, like the whole ugly duckling thing, as they grew up, they're kind of more of a mottled color. Once again, just to blend in. They're not good yet at defending themselves. They can't fly, so they don't want to stand out and be bright white against a background. So you see the mute swans typically have an orange bill, but these mute swan cygnets, which hatch this year, they have gray bills. But then as we get to autumn, the water's going to start to freeze. All right. And so they have to learn to fly, which for a big bird, that's a challenge. I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of birds, kind of the geese will do this, where they can't just swoosh and take off like the birds on your deck. They have to kind of like almost run on the surface of the water. So for big birds like swans, especially the young that have never flown before, autumn's a big time. They've been testing out their flight muscles all summer. And they hope is I can beat the ice. I can get to the point where I can fly before the water freezes, which is why swans can't occur too much farther north than we are, because it would just take too long for them to develop. They wouldn't get to the flight stage by the time they had to start flying south. So that's an exciting thing as August progresses. You might think I've been looking at these baby swans all summer long, but here they are. They're looking whiter and whiter. All right, more and more like the adults, even though the bills are kind of still gray, and they're starting to fly. So here's um, their story. A lot of ducks, or I'm sorry, a lot of birds can occur here like all year round. I don't want to say like you'll never see a black duck in this season, but there are a lot of birds that the migration is the time to see them. Now, I like black ducks. The dark color. They have a blue stripe on their wings called a speculum. Mallards have the same, but in mallards it's bordered with white. Here it's just like a solid blue against the dark brown to black. It's a really nice contrast. So I really like them. So you can, like a mallard would have like a white here, where here you just see the nice contrast. I like that. Uh, and we worry about them. There's a bunch of birds whose numbers are dropping faster than others. So we lost a quarter of North America's birds in the past couple of decades, but some are going down faster. So black ducks, we're going to see them during migration time. Autumn's a great time to see them. And we're always happy to, because they're one of the ones whose numbers have dropped most. Later, I'll show you rusty blackbirds, and the same thing would apply. Their numbers have dropped, in recent decades, more than 80%. We're not quite sure why, but here this is the time of year to see them during migration, and so that's exciting. We didn't see them all year, so not only are we seeing a new bird, but we're also seeing the ones which are rare, and we're happy that Orange County preserves so much land that gives them the stopovers that they need. Just little things. I said that, birds can sometimes look different. You might say, okay, red-eyed vireos. If the sun is right, I'm going to see the red eye.
Mhm.
But a lot of birds, once again, teenagers look a little different. The ones which hatched this year, they don't have the red eye yet. White-eyed vireos, the ones that hatched this year, they don't have the white eye yet. And so autumn's a time that, if you're a birder, you can say, oh, like bird, this species looks like this. You just have to, kind of be open to, you might see here's the male that might look different from the breeding male. Here's the female that might look different, and then you've got juveniles, or may even be a juvenile male and female coloration. Um, so that's odd. So kind of what I just said was that's what a male common yellow throat looks like. A female common yellow throat, that's still the male, has a yellow throat but lacks the black mask. But now come autumn, you say, what is that? Well, that's a yellow throat, but that's a teenager. All right. So just, if you're out identifying birds, just that, the idea that some juveniles have a different coloration than you would see in adults. That's just something you'll have to get used to. Okay. So, so, so here I'm starting on warblers, but why not go all in? I'd like to talk about Cape May, all right, because Cape May, welcome, welcome. Um, no worries, no worries. Um, so Cape May is this wonderful place, which is about a 3-hour drive. Now, 3 hours, it's not something, right around the corner. But while you might say, oh, I'm going to take some exotic trip and go to this one place to see all these great birds, Cape May is not that far, and you really see a lot of great things. So geographically, this is what's going on. And I hate to be cliche, but the word funnel is the word that's used to describe Cape May. Because if I'm a bird and I'm in the eastern Great Lakes, I'm like, all right, well, let me go here. Oh, there's these Appalachian Mountains, and over there's the Adirondacks. And so just the way the wind's going, et cetera, I'll probably go this way as I head south. If I'm a songbird up in like Newfoundland or Maine, I'm a songbird. I don't like ocean. We don't fly over ocean. We don't do that. So I would hug the shore and everyone in the middle here. So if you notice, everyone is coming to here. And this point, Cape May, is the last stopover before you do have to fly over a bit of water before hitting Del Mar Peninsula or the Carolinas or wherever you're going. So many birds migrate through here. So if you get a chance, we live on one of the major flyways. So this is a great part of the country to observe birds, not just Orange County and the ridges near here, but other places like Cape May. I went earlier this autumn, and then I just saw so many birds. And very often you see what are called mixed flocks. So if you're a birder, all right, I did have a video just on the mixed flocks. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So if you go out birding, I might you're like, oh, I'd hope to see a warbler. I didn't see any warblers today. Today I only saw um, one or whatever. So, birders love warblers, and it's a bit of a challenge. But if you go to Cape May in autumn, if you get lucky, like this one, you can say, all right, well, wow, here's a whole bunch of black and white warblers. Look, there's a whole bunch of them. That's awesome. Oh, and look who's next. You see, I forget who's next. Oh, look, here's a black-throated blue warbler in the same flock. Oh, here's a black-throated green warbler in the same flock. Oh, there's a redstart. Oh, here's a parula. And then you just say, like, I mean, not only did I see a lot, they were in a group. That never happens in Orange County, like over the summer. You have to here's a yellow throat over here, and we have to drive to a different habitat. But here you can stand still and a whole bunch just go past you. Or you can be and looking at one tree. So this is one single tree. Here's a Cape May warbler, and that was next to, I think that's still the Cape May. Here's the prairie warbler. There was a common yellow throat in the next tree. So I'm just standing here, and there's like warbler number one, warbler number two, warbler number three. So summer does have differences compared to autumn, but here in autumn, you could never do that in summer. So every time of the year is a good time to go birding. Let me just stick with Cape May for a little bit and talk about, I'll talk about raptors. So raptors. So get a better raptor. So here's a Merlin. This is up in Canada. I was at the National Audubon Conference this summer in Montreal. And here are Merlins in Canada where they belong. That's where they breed. They don't breed here. They breed up north. So, seeing a Merlin in Canada didn't surprise me. I wouldn't see one here. So, no Merlins in Orange County until it comes to autumn, where here I am once again on the Liberty Loop. Here's a Merlin in Orange County. Never see one in the summer, but here it is in autumn. It's like, oh, so this is a falcon. It's medium sized in between the kestrel, which is the smallest, and the peregrine, which is bigger. So here it is. I think that's a dragonfly that it's eating. And then if you go to Cape May, all right, then you can see them there as well as raptors go through. When does this happen? Well, migration is not a thing, because we'll get to the warblers again in a second. It's like a whole series of things. So when do raptors migrate? Are you talking about sharp-shinned hawks? Because they go early. All right. So if you wanted to go, oh, it's last week of August, couple of weeks in September, great time to see the sharp-shinned hawks. You may not know that bird because they're forest birds, even though they occur here. They're kind of shy, so they're hawks that you can find in our area, but they don't like to be seen. But in, once again, late August, early September, that's the time you can see them. And in Cape May, you say, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one. They're accipiter hawks that have long, narrow tails, unlike maybe the red tails that you're used to having the fatter fan-shaped tails. And so, I like the accipiter hawk, so I'd like to see them. And I put together a newsletter for Audubon, which, if anyone wants to give me your email, we'll send you it monthly, pictures of all the birds and all the local happenings. I'd love to take pictures of them, but you can't. I mean, a lot of these hawks are like, oh, I think I see a hawk. Oh, I'm lucky I have my camera right next to me. Oh, there it goes. And you're getting up. That's how they usually appear. But here come autumn. Oh, here's one sharp-shinned flying overhead as it migrates south. Here's another one. Here's another one. So I'm not going to get pictures of them all summer. Try as I might. But then in autumn, look, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. So each season has its the special things about it. I have far more videos and thoughts than we can fit. So I'll just kind of jump around and try to hit some fun ones. So once again, rusty blackbirds, they're not really nesters here, and they're not doing well. All right, they're dropping. But all of a sudden, you come in and you're like, ooh, like I've seen them at the Bashkill and at Goshen like a bunch of times. It's common. I've seen groups of like 5 or 6. So that's great. Not only is it great to see a bird I usually don't, but like, just one that I know is really struggling. Here with its chocolate head and its lighter iris. Great to see that. I love common nighthawks, right? As they fly overhead eating insects, like these white bars on their wings really stand out. Once again, we'll see them during migration. So then just kind of random themes going. Tree swallows. I mean, tree swallows are pretty. I like them. About a month ago, I was at the Goshen Sanctuary. Once again, looking at tree swallows. They're always pretty birds. And I saw over 1,000 of them. So in summer's a good time to look at birds, but I never see 1,000 tree sparrows. Right here, they all are. They're migrating, so they're thirsty. These birds, they don't stop to drink. They drink on the fly. So they're just kind of flying over the water, getting a quick swallow as they go. And then I look up here. The sky was just full of them. All right. So, it's starting to get dark a little earlier, starting to get a little chilly. And you might say, you know what? Maybe I'll hang up my birding, binoculars for the year. But then you'd miss the autumn stuff. All right. Look at all of that. That's just a cool thing to watch. As it starts to get colder, we are seeing some shifts. So here's just mourning doves, and I'll talk about it's getting warmer. So what that means is the black vultures, which, when a lot of us were younger, how many black vultures were in Orange County? 0. All right, they were Florida birds. They were Carolina birds. They didn't come up this farther north. But as it got warmer, now we see more and more black vultures. They're very common. They stay here all year round. Red-bellied woodpeckers. Their species name is carolinensis. You used to just go to the Carolinas to see them. The Carolina wren, once again, they weren't really here in colder months, or at least not in numbers, but it's gotten warmer and warmer, and so we see them. Now, winter can still be hard, like mourning doves. They're not good in winter. Will they lose toes in really cold days? They might. All right. So just because we see birds in winter doesn't mean they're good at it. And we're seeing, because our winters are getting milder, more and more birds just like sneaking their range a little farther north. But still, winter's a challenge for a lot of these birds, especially this wasn't really the latitude that they were adapted to. So we'll see mourning doves all winter, but just once again, they're trying to figure this out. And once again, they're not great at this. Some woodpeckers stay, but some go. All right, so yellow-bellied sapsuckers, 30% of their diet is from sap, and they make holes in trees. So while they can stay all winter, I've seen yellow-bellied sapsuckers in winter. The largest numbers migrate. So a lot of woodpeckers will stay, and you say, oh, downy woodpeckers, I'll see them all winter. Pileated, you might see all winter. That's true, but the yellow-bellied sapsuckers are more migratory. But once again, I hate to say this. I know you want an answer. Does it migrate? Does it not? It's just kind of, there's this gray area. So this woodpecker tends not to migrate. This one tends to migrate. Could you see it in Orange County in winter? You could. But unlike most of the downies who will stay, most of the sapsuckers will go. Flickers would be the other woodpecker that is true of. Flickers eat more ants than any other bird. So although they're woodpeckers, they tend not to make holes. They tend to feed on ants on the ground. So they have to migrate south, because once we get snow, that's going to be a challenge for those. So come autumn, all right, you'll see yellow-bellied sapsuckers migrating through, flickers migrating through. Come winter, there'll be a couple of woodpeckers that stay. So each season is going to have its own repertoire of birds. So some of you might not get this, but some of the warblers might. So some of the bird watchers would. Like, warblers are near and dear to our hearts. All right. And so like sometimes winter is just going to be this long warbler free season, and like I'm going to struggle with this. But just a little, just if this warms you up a little bit. So there's two, the palm and the yellow-rumped. We saw yellow-rumped on our hike 2 days ago. And I saw my first palm this year in March. So if you think about it, like even though, it gets cold, we're missing our warblers, that's really only 3 months. Like if you can still see them in November, and you'll see the first ones of spring in March. So if, for the bird watchers out there, we think of these as summer birds, really you can see warblers the majority of the year. But then there's ones to look for, because palms and yellow-rumped, they will
I'm
be
making
first
some.
up, and they will be the last to leave. So if you're not a bird watcher and you're saying, oh, how am I going to remember all of these? There's strategies. So if it's late in the season and you're saying, oh, I might see a warbler, there's only two that you're going to see. So you could just learn those two. The other ones have already migrated through. And these are ones which can incorporate a little more plant material into their diet than most warblers, which are primarily eating insects. So palm warblers will be one of the first you see in spring and one of the last you see here. And yellow-rumped warblers, the same applies. Although, and I'm sorry to say this, but yellow-rumped warblers, we all love them, whether or not you call them by their nickname, which is butterbutt. But you'll see why if you don't know. But in autumn, once again, these aren't breeding males. The males aren't trying to impress anybody. So they're like, I'm just going to try to blend in. So that might not be as exciting as it would be when you see them in all their spring and their bright spring colors. Like that's a spring male. All right. So that's, quite striking. But even now, like you might not notice that, like, I'm not even sure what bird that is. What is it? Like, it's brownish, like what? All right. But then if it spreads its wings a little bit, you'll notice a bright yellow patch on the tail. And you're like, aha, That's the yellow-rumped warbler. So, you know, autumn bird watching in many respects, especially the songbirds, are a little more challenging because the males don't have the breeding colors. But nevertheless, they all, you know, uh, there are things that you'll see in each. Now, just to make sure, I want to fit everything. Um, Let me do this one and then we'll get to the winter ones. So cedar waxwings, uh, they can eat berries. In fact, they can eat only berries. I'm not saying that they do, all right? Baltimore Orioles and cedar waxwings, they eat bugs when they can. I mean, bugs have protein or whatever. But if you had to force them to only eat berries, they could, and most birds can't. All right. So these birds, the cedar waxwings, can stay in winter because there's still berries around. All right. And especially some of the lower quality berries, the quote cedar fruits. They're not really fruits if they're on an evergreen tree, but we don't feel like talking about that. Um, you can see them. I've got a bunch of videos of. Let's go to another. I'm sorry, since I'm talking about it, I should at least find. I've I have 6,000 videos, and every now and then I'm like, no, you want to see the other one, so we'll go to see the other one. See. This, well, I'll tell you. How about I introduce it after I find it? Oh, good question. So I'm going to answer that in parts because I don't want to like spoil it and not play the Drunk Bird song, which I was leading up to that. It depends on your digestive stuff. So like here are cedar and juniper trees on Ox campus. And these cedar waxwings, look at them all. I mean, there's this huge crowd here. But most birds can't eat these. They're too waxy. All right. And then there's things like bayberries and things like that. The birds that can eat it, oh, they love it. But most birds, their digestive system wouldn't do it. And just in nature, I mean, when we look at caterpillars, like so these monarch caterpillars, they can digest milkweed. And so they love milkweed, but most insects couldn't. It would be poison. And so just like so I'm sorry, there's like 30 tangents I want to go on, so I'm going to try to rein in. I'm going to say something. Please don't take this the wrong way. The plants out there, they don't like you. All right. Sorry, you're an animal. You eat them. All right. So how can they get you to stop? I mean, would you stop eating them? Well, they poison their leaves. All right. And so when you find things like milkweeds and these things are hard to eat, you can't just start walking up to plants and start eating them. If you were like to walk across the field and say, "Oh, let me get back to nature, eat these leaves," you would spit everything out because it tastes horrible. Your tongue is warning you, don't eat this plant. It's trying to kill you. So when we see relationships like this in nature, it's hard to eat, a lot of specific plants. And the animals which do then have modified their digestive systems. If they're very waxy, then their livers make more bile in order to digest it, etc. Um, uh, Reason why you don't eat more birds don't eat just fruit is one, you do need protein somehow. And I'm not going to fault the birds for not being able to make all their amino acids out of fruit because we can't. Right? We have 8 essential, like I'm a vegetarian, but I have to make sure I eat protein, right? Because I can't eat fruit and turn that into all of my amino acids. There's half the amino acids I can't make. So I have to eat protein. And most birds are kind of like that too. So it's kind of special if the birds have modifications on, being able to survive only on fruit. There is another difference, and I'll just let this song tell you the story. And at home, if you can't hear this well, I'm just going to play like 15 seconds.
Still actually, the feeling, don't teach us anything, food is the main thing. The barbell, especially such a late fall, a dangerous close call, fermented fruit makes alcohol.
Okay, so a lot of these berries, they've been there since like September. The plants drop their leaves, they're not going to do photosynthesis. So the berries are just sitting there. And as they last all winter, you'll have warm spells, cold spells, where bacteria will start to ferment some of this. So they're getting alcohol. It's fermenting fruit. We ferment fruit, right? I mean, that's where we get wine and so many of our alcoholic drinks. So these fruits are just sitting there, gradually fermenting. So the alcohol levels are building up. So birds can actually get drunk. Birds do fly into things. Birds do fall off branches, and birds can actually die. So just as we go on, there is a challenge to eating some of these these fruits. And I tried to do a little. I was proud of that effect, and that's all. Yeah. Uh, there are some plants that try to take advantage of this. Like there's one specifically called winterberry. It's in the holly family. Now, as you know, hollies are things that we can't eat. I mean, they're also in the toxic. But like if you adapt, so this isn't toxic, you can metabolize this. This plant will keep it's making these berries now, and they'll be a food source throughout winter. So bluebirds can stay here and feed on these. Mockingbirds can stay here. So most berry eating birds have gone south, but some can stay. So, you never know. I know the Bashikal has a lot of winterberry, so there might be birds that you can see there that you can't see elsewhere. And then let me just kind of go into full winter mode. Yeah, I'm sorry, there, it wasn't responding. So there is still food in winter. Like if you go under frozen lake water, there are water bugs. So these are water bugs from winter that are under the ice. All right. So there are still things to eat, and there are still rodents. I mean, just rodents are warm-blooded. And where we were 2 days ago, where we saw the cranes, that swamp that just voles everywhere. Just these rodents called voles, they're everywhere. And so this is the time to see short-eared owls. So when winter comes, I have a list of things that I want to see come winter. Short-eared owls, top of the list. Rough-legged hawks are harder to see. They're on the list. I'll try to get those to Snoky soon. And where we were at, so if you don't know, there's two great places, the Shawangunk grasslands, if you live out Montgomery Way, or if you go to southern Orange County, once again, that Wallkill Preserve and the Liberty Loop Trail. So two things happen. One, I forget it. I think those are just the owls. If you're there as it's late afternoon, you might see owls, but you're probably going to see harrier hawks just flying looking for voles. So just it's cold, but there's rodents there, and you see hawks just gliding over the swamp. And then it starts to get dark, and now the short-eared owls come out. You won't see them any other time of the year except for winter. So once again, it's cold, but there's great birding to be done. It's different birding than you would do in a warmer month. One of the things I always mention, because it took me years to learn this, I didn't bird in the winter because it was cold. Like, my hands are cold, my face is cold. Like, oh, I'll wait till it gets warm. And only later did I realize like all the stuff that I could only see in winter that I was missing. And I got angry with myself because like you ski, like when you go out and it's cold, you dress for it. Like you wear layers, you get a mask if you need to, get your gloves. But then I would go out birding, like I don't know, dress however. I'm like, oh, I'm cold. I don't like it. Just dress for the cold. There's a saying that I like. There's no such thing um, as bad weather, just bad clothing choices. That you can be warm and go out here, and here's a great bird that you can see. So we'll try to do this, but there are parking areas in the Shawangunk grasslands, and here that if you just go around dusk in winter, this is the time to just watch the short-eared owls. Ah, wonderful as they look over the insects. There are more birds like that. So here's a winter wren. So we've lost some of our wrens. The marsh wrens, they migrated south. The house wrens, they migrated south. Carolina wrens are hanging around now that it's warmer. But winter wrens, they're in Canada most of the year. So this is Florida to them. And this is the only time that you're going to see winter wrens. All right, just if you're a birder, and you're keeping track, like winter wrens, that's something that only this time of year you can see. Let me get a couple more examples of. All right, I'll stay here and then I'll go to the other one. The Hudson is going to be ice free, and so there's some ducks that you wouldn't see during the year that might stay all winter on the Hudson. These are buffleheads. This is great. This red-tailed hawks were making a nest. I was at a place called Croton Point. It's a little south of Orange County. I just want to give a shout out to it because it's a toxic land dump where New York City just sent its garbage for years. And then they said, all right, let's cover it over plastic and prevent it from like leaking into the Hudson, which would be horrible. And they covered it over. Now it's a grassland. It's a great place to bird. Right. So here they just took just a trash heap and they monitor, like they won't let trees grow there because then the trees would poke holes through the linings of the garbage. So this is just a mountain of New York City trash, but it was reclaimed and made into a birding thing. And this is February, I believe. Croton Point has an Eagle Fest. And you saw all the people there, like, oh, once again, everyone's birding in winter. You wouldn't think it's a great time to bird, but it was just a big festival uh, there. So there are birds you're more likely to see in winter, like red-breasted nuthatches. If you're used to seeing the white-breasted nuthatches we get throughout much of the year. Of the sparrows, there are sparrows which you see in winter, like slate-colored juncos, that you don't see as much of in the spring. Snow geese, also high on my list of things to see in winter. So there's one close up, mostly white with some black. But what makes them special is this. They just form these huge, huge groups. And southern Orange County is really good for snow geese. You're only going to see them in winter, but they like to be in fields that used to be farmland, feeding on the waste crops. And you can just see these huge flocks, and as they suddenly change colors, it's just a joy to see. So once again, it'll be cold, so dress for it. But you can come home and say, like, I didn't see as many birds as I would see in summer, but I saw my snow geese. I saw the short-eared owls. So this is Allentown. Like if you happen to be driving towards like Bethlehem, Allentown, just keep an eye out if you're driving on 22 because that's all farmland. And I always see, not always, almost always see snow geese there. So once again, this is a winter thing in Allentown where just like all these, geese are taken off. So even though it's once again winter, a lot to be seen. Kinglets are the cutest little birds. All right, you can see them in the summer. I almost never do because where they nest high in evergreen. So a little tiny bird at the top of a pine tree or like an evergreen you're never going to see. But come winter, they're in the brushes here. So we'll see them all winter. All right, these cute little birds, smaller than sparrows. That's one of the ways you recognize them because not many birds are smaller than sparrows. And a nice little golden crown here. There's also a ruby crown kinglet. So winter's a really good time to see them. A point I had made earlier, we had golden crown kinglets on campus a couple weeks ago. They're they're not necessarily good at winter. All right, they're like little birds. They have so much surface area. They lose heat a lot. They have to like just eat, looking for bark for any stray insect which is still there, or insect eggs or whatever. And if they stop eating for a couple of hours, they could actually starve. So how do they, survive it if they're not really all that good at winter? And the reason is they have so many kids. All right, between them and the ruby crown, like ruby crown, I think can have 12 eggs per nest, which is a lot, especially if you're a tiny little bird. And they can do 2 nests per breeding season. So that's a lot of kids in a summer. Why? Well, because winter's cold for little birds. Not all of them are going to make it. So that's one of their strategies of trying to get through. Other strategies, they hide in the bushes and they'll clump together to share warmth, etc. So that's a neat bird. I'll admit, I'm not the hugest fan of starlings, but nevertheless, it is impressive when you just see like hundreds to thousands of them. All right. And not only do you see whole groups of them, but the way that they flock and they all kind of follow each other, it's almost just artistic in the way that you have these patterns shifting in the air, what are called murmurations of starlings. Once again, they act differently during the spring and summer. So some birds look a little different at this time of year. Some birds act a little differently at this time of year. Even if I'm not the hugest fan of starlings because they're not native to our area, they're less impressive to see that much wildlife in one area. And once again, just because, if you get more and more into birding, I don't think many people start off this way. A tree sparrow. And you realize, oh, that's right. This is a winter bird, right? So there's sparrows that you only see here in summer. Tree sparrows you're only going to see here in winter. So if you have a list of things like, oh, winter's coming, I haven't seen these birds yet. Tree sparrows on your list. Even better. These are harder to see. White crowned sparrows. I mean, white-throated sparrows, they're a winter bird, but the white crowned sparrows, hard to see a winter bird. You're not going to see them at any other time of, there's the female, there's the male, any other time of the year. So believe it or not, like sparrows can be exciting in winter because you're like, oh, here's all the sparrows that I haven't seen before. All right, I'll end with rough-legged. We did them somewhere. Oh, I had you. Oh, darn it. I had it all signed up. All right, I'm sorry, I shifted, so let's go to buntings. So 3 more winter birds, and then I'll start to wrap up. All right, let's do this one because they're in here together. So last year when we did our Christmas count, we were in Pine Island area of Orange County. And oh, here's horned larks. You usually don't see them. Oh, look, that's a snow bunting. So once again, just winter's cold, and you might say, oh, I'm not going to drive around Orange County, look at the roads, or whatever. But this is the only time of year that you're going to see these birds. And if you get lucky, you're going to see a whole bunch of them. So horned larks, they're the ones with the yellow, and the snow buntings. Some birds have names that you don't understand because you don't see them when they're breeding, like the horned larks and the double-crested cormorants. They have these little feather tufts that can stick up, but that's not like an everyday, every minute of the day thing. So if you ever say like it doesn't look horned to me, that might be a breeding thing. And then one last example is here's a hawk that you'll only see in winter called the rough-legged hawk. I didn't see any last winter. And that's a question. If it's a mild winter, if they can still find rodents up north, do they stay there? They might. So last year was the first year in a couple that I haven't seen these, but I like them a lot. They kind of look like red tails, but they don't have the bib, and they can kind of hover in one place, which is something that falcons can do, but most hawks can't. So you see bright white stripe on the tail, little spots on the wings. So as as someone who birds a lot, I'd be happy to go through, oh, these birds are prettier in spring than they are in fall, or fall warblers are more confusing, or I'm going out in winter and I didn't see as many birds. Like we were hiking 2 days ago before Nancy spotted the sandhill cranes. We weren't seeing a lot. I was hoping for more ducks. There are days where you're out for a nice walk and you're not doing as much birding. But then you do see things that you won't see at any other time of the year. All right. And even if it's things that like robins or bluebirds, they're behaving a little different. They're eating different things. They're in different habitats than you used to see them. There might be like the murmurations of the starlings, etc. So we live in a wonderful area. I hate to be insulting because I am sometimes. But like if you travel to like the West is beautiful. If you go to like the Virgin Islands, beautiful, but also boring after a little while. Well, like okay, like I think I've seen the birds. Like I went to Iceland. Iceland's beautiful. Like you love the volcanoes and volcanic rock. But as far as the birds, then you come back here and you realize not everyone in the world has such a great biodiversity that we have. And especially in autumn, we're on a flyway. Canada's birds don't survive unless they come through here. And they need here. So we support them on their journey farther south. So this is just, there's so much wild space, so many beautiful places, and just so much great wildlife that every season of the year has its own story to tell. All right, so I hope you can get out and enjoy this. One other thing, all of these, organizations, if this is something that interests you, these organizations would love to send you, their emails. So we have a monthly newsletter with all these pictures and video links from Audubon. If you're not getting it, if you'd like to put your name, I'll forward your email list along. If you want a calendar, this is what we ask. If you're a member, any donation you want, take a calendar. So there's two. There's one for Audubon. There's one for the Bashik Hill. They cost $8 to print if that factors into your thinking at any point. If you're not a member but would like to become one, there's a membership form for both Bashakil and for Audubon, and then just take a calendar for free. Like if you do the